Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem. This is a postmortem of my Blitz chess game number 41, where my opponent opened with e4 and we ended up playing a Ruy Lopez. So let's check it out. e4, e5, and I have 3 knights e6, bishop b4. So that's the Ruy Lopez. I play a6, the Morphy defense, and he plays the main line bishop a4 rather than the exchange variation, which would be bishop takes c6. And I continue with the main line, and then I play what I'm calling the modern line, where I push the pawn to b5, kick the bishop back, and develop my bishop to c5. And the normal reply here is either c3, trying to build up in the center in the usual way, or a4, trying to undermine these weak pawns on the queen side. And so h3 is not exactly a bad move. It's just not the most forcing. It gives black a little freedom to plan out his moves and make them in the way he finds the most comfortable. So you're just not putting pressure on your opponent when you make a move like that. So unless it's absolutely needed, there's no rush to play the move h3. I haven't even gotten a bishop that can go there. I could think of putting the knight on the square g4, but it doesn't do anything yet. So, but he plays there. I guess one idea is maybe he wants to put his rook on e1, so he wants to make sure that pawn is not coming under attack by 2 pieces. There's already 1 piece on it. But we play pretty normal moves after this, and up until this point, I would say I play the move c5, and this move is a mistake. And the computer recommends here bishop to b7, which would be like a normal developing move. There's not so much to do on this diagonal now he's taken away the g4 square. Coming here to e6, it can get shut down by the move d5, so it's not so great. So bishop b7, logical place to develop that, and maintaining the center here basically. But I push ahead with c5, and now White plays very energetically and correctly. He plays e5. So this is a good move, very strong. And I play knight d5. And the combination of these 2 moves, c5 and knight d5, actually gives White a winning game at this point. If he had played the best moves, he could have won. So the computer recommends here just taking the pawn and then exchanging queens to eliminate some of the attacking pressure before moving the knight away. So when I move the knight away like this, it gives White the opportunity to play bishop e4. So I defend, and then he takes. And I realized this idea during the game. He can take and attack my knight with the queen, and at the same time he's attacking my bishop. But I have this reply, d takes c5, where I just take back, and my queen is defending the knight, so it's adequately defended. And I've also dealt with a threat to my bishop. So there was 2 threats on the previous move, but this one move defends against both of them. So that's not the problem. But what White played here, queen c2, lining up on this diagonal, was not the way to finish me off. So there's a killer move that White has here. And this is a common tactical pattern, so you should really train yourself to look for this kind of move and find it in your games, because it will crop up from time to time when you face an uncautious opponent like me who wanders into one of these situations where it works. Okay, if you haven't come up with the answer yet, pause the video and think about it for a while. This is a worthwhile position to think about for a while and see if you can find the best move. But I'm going to go ahead and give away the answer now. It's bishop takes h7 check. And if you haven't seen this kind of tactic, this is really instructive. So first of all, the computer recommends not even taking the bishop. But if you don't take the bishop, you're just giving up a pawn for nothing, and White's attack is still going to proceed. He's going to play his knight to g5 and his queen to h5, and you're just 1 pawn down, and you haven't even made him give up material for the attack. So he's basically attacking for free or with a pawn bonus. So you don't want to play that. The best way to challenge it is to play king takes h7. And the follow-up here is knight to g5. And now if the king goes back, the queen comes out to h5, threatening checkmate. So this looks pretty bad. The computer recommends doing silly things like queen takes knight or knight to f6. But it's important to understand why other things don't work. So One thing you have to notice is the knight is guarding that escape square. So if you were to try a move like pawn to f6 just to give the king an escape square, it still doesn't work. That's still mate because the knight's guarding that escape. So your only way to get an escape square is with the move rook to e8, giving you a little flight square that way. And here's a very instructive sequence. The queen does not come down here to h7 right away. There's a checkmate, and it's a forced mate in 5 here, and it starts with this move. You take this pawn first, and you'll see why later. So the queen is supported by the knight on either of those squares, but it's important to do everything with check so that your opponent has no option but to move. So there's only one move here. You go back here with check, and there's only one move here. Now you come in and check, and again there's only one move. He runs this way. You check again, and there's only one move. He runs this way, and then you take the pawn, and this is checkmate. And that's the pattern that you want to remember. You eliminate this f7 pawn first, and then you go into this normal sequence of checks, and now it ends in a checkmate because in this position the queen is covering all of these squares, where if there was a pawn there, obviously there would be no checkmate. And now notice the other squares. These two squares are covered by the pawn on e5, the square is covered by the knight, and this square is covered by the queen. So that's checkmate. So a very pretty pattern. Sometimes if you find yourself in one of these attacks where your opponent has sacked a bishop here. This, by the way, the bishop sack on h7 is called the Greek gift, because if you take it, it's like the Trojan horse. Sometimes in one of these attacks, you can play the move king to g6 instead of king to g8 and escape. But in this case, it just does not work. The way that white handles this is he plays the queen up here to d3 check, and there's no escape because the queen is guarding that square and the pawn is guarding that square and the knight is guarding that square, and the bishop is guarding their knight. And if you run back this way, here or here, doesn't matter, queen here is checkmate. So because there's no way out, and the knight defends the queen, so it doesn't matter where the king goes. So it's checkmate going that direction. So you're in check. The only move is here, f5 to block the check. He takes en passant, renewing the check, and now your king is in check. He can't run back here again because of the queen to h7 checkmate idea, so the king can't run away in this to either of these two squares. So and there's nothing to block the check, so the king has to go here, and then rook here is checkmate. So once again, the knight is guarded by the bishop, the queen is guarding these squares, and the rook is hitting everything else. The knight is guarding that square. So another nice checkmating pattern. So there's just basically no way out except to give up massive amounts of material. And so the game would be over after bishop takes h7. So fortunately for me, my opponent didn't find that, and the game goes on. But that's an important tactic to put in your memory bank, so keep that in mind. So I play the move h6 to keep his knight out of there, and also to so I don't have to defend the pawn on h7, which he was threatening to take. He attacks my my knight here, and he pins it, and I play knight b4, attacking his queen. And here I miscalculated. He can just play rook takes d8. I was thinking that knight takes queen would be a good threat, but he can take here with check, and after I take back, then he takes the knight, and he's just a piece up. I was thinking my knight had a threat on the rook. I forgot about bishop takes here. So I have to, this just doesn't work, actually. I would have to take the bishop, but then the queen could take there, and my queen would still be under attack. So not good. But he played queen e2 here. And so let's see. If he had played rook d8, actually the best reply is for me just to take back. And then he has to move his queen. So he can move here, defending the bishop. And what's the count here? Rook, 2 rooks, and 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. Yeah, I'm just down material. So this is just no good for me. this knight b4 idea. But worked in the game. He moved his queen, and so I get my queen out of take, and the game continues. And in this sort of tactical, but not quite correct vein. And it was not too bad until this point. This is my sort of final blunder, which loses the game. It's queen b7. I was thinking of taking advantage of a pin on the knight. But it's an important thing to remember that pins work in both directions. So his knight is pinned against his queen, but that means if the knight ever moves with tempo, the queen is attacking my queen. So it goes both ways. A double-edged sword, as it were. And he has the idea of knight to f3, f6, knight to f6 check. Now, right now, my queen is defended, but after exchanging knights, he attacks my knight. And if this knight ever moves, then I'm going to lose my queen to this knight f6 check tactic. So I counterattack his rook, but basically there's nothing to be done here. He can just take my knight, and I'm a piece down. But that was only fitting. My game was lost before that. What's funny here is that my opponent makes a mistake here. So if you're white, what would you play in this position? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and tell you the answer. There is a potential pin on the bishop. It's not there yet, but it will be there if I double my rooks. And so you've got to do something about this threat right now. And so there's lots of ways I can deal with this, actually. So it's not like there was a single good move. So it was a sort of a trick question. But white could play his bishop back to b2 or to c3 because the rook is defended right now. He could also play a move like rook to d2, so that if I pin the bishop, he can bring the other rook over to defend it. But I think it's better just to get the bishop out of the way. But when he plays this move, rook to a to c1, he's just giving me the chance to pin the bishop and win my material back. So from a lost position, we've gone to a position that's completely even. And this should be a total draw. And it goes on in a position that should be a total draw for quite a few moves. And it's not hard to draw. And I just play a silly move here. Yeah, he moved his rook sideways, but he's still attacking my pawn over here. So I can't move my king away. But I moved here for no reason. He takes the pawn. So now I'm down a pawn, and it's possible probably with best play to... Now, I can't say that. It may be possible to draw this endgame, but it's too complicated to say for sure. And certainly not the way I played it. The computer had a few suggestions, but I just want to mention there's one really cool tactic that white had here that he missed. He can just take this pawn. Because when I take back, he can check me, and I can't go to any of these squares. The two pawns there form an invincible array of an invincible line that I can't cross. I have to step back, and then he can take my rook. So now he's easily winning because he's going to even get my other pawn. So that would be a simple win for white. For me in this position, I can try, instead of playing king g6, I can try playing something like rook to f3 chases king back, and then bring my king forward. And this is different. I hit on this idea a little later, but anyway, the immediate king g6 is just losing. But he didn't spot that, and we keep playing around for a little bit, and eventually he gets this idea of a breakthrough. And now I am sort of forced to play rook f3. And here, interestingly, the computer recommends, instead of taking, bringing the rook back. And this might still be a draw. The thing is, if he just brings his king forward, well, I can just repeat. And I'm happy with the draw. I'm down a pawn. I can't win this game. So I would take that. And if he takes this pawn, I can take back, and I'm probably winning this pawn too. So this looks pretty drawish. So that might have been the way to draw the game here. Instead, I played g takes h4. And now I think he has a pretty easy win. He takes this pawn and gets into a position to win this pawn. He checks my king away, and this is a losing position. I try a few tricks, but nothing is going to work, and I resign here. So anyway, a lot of mistakes in that game, but you know, it was played with a 10-minute time control, so maybe there's no excuse for some of those mistakes, but some of them are kind of typical. If you don't see an attacking idea like bishop h7, that's something you should really work on, though. That should be part of your native tactical training. It should pop out to you in situations like this, particularly after the knight on f6 has been chased away, or if there's a way to chase that knight away. That defensive knight is really a key defender, and if you can get rid of it, then the sacrifices on h7 are often quite effective. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you guys again later. Bye.